You ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1, go. Wow. That was way more neck and neck than I thought. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another head-to-head comparison. Today we are looking at the Street Triple versus the CB650R. Let's get into it.
Yep.
Alright guys, so some of you might be wondering what we're doing with these two motorcycles. If you've been following along, you know that this is our giveaway CB650R, and it is actually being shipped off to its winner here in maybe a week or two. Congratulations to Kyle, who won this motorcycle. Thanks again, Kyle, for responding to the email and making sure that you are eligible to win this bike. Then of course, this Street Triple 765 over here is part of our new giveaway series. If you want the chance to win this bike, a KTM Duke 390 or a Yamaha XSR 700, hit the link down below on YammieNoob.co and get started over there. Every dollar you spend gets you 10 entries to win. Get access to our Discord server. Spite and I hang out on there pretty much every day if you want to chat with us or hang out with all of our other members as well. I think it's a pretty good time with the Discord server.
Oh, it's a great time. Ton of fun.
Yeah, ton of fun. Stupid memes, hentai. Just kidding, there's no hentai on the Discord. I'm just being facetious. All right, let's get into this video. So, this is a bit of an unlikely comparison, but I think it actually makes a lot more sense than you might realize. So this Street Triple over here is actually the R version, which is a little bit more expensive than the S version. So when you think about the Street Triple in S trim versus CB650R in this trim over here, they're actually pretty close in comparison. Spite, what do you think about the price on those two bikes and kind of that stuff?
I mean, so considering what you're getting for your dollar, I think that they're pretty similar. I think maybe the Honda comes in a little overpriced because it is a little bit down on power. We'll get into that in a second. But in general, just from when you're sitting on the bike or when you're off the bike looking at it, there's no dangling wires, there's no like thing that looks like it shouldn't be there or looks like it's a cheap part. You know, this is all really good, well put together, intelligently screwed together stuff. And that's what you're getting on the Triumph as well. And it's, you know, both of these bikes sitting next to each other, they're pretty good for a one-to-one comparison.
Yeah, I think that that's the takeaway for me as well is, you know, when you're on that bike, it evokes a really similar sense when you're on this bike of like, wow, this is like a really well put together machine. It's really different than the Yamaha MT bikes, for example, that feel kind of backyard built, kind of scrappy, put together. That makes them fun in a different way, but these are both really refined and well put together machines. So let's talk some specs really quick. So Street Triple R is gonna come in at around $11,500. The S version actually comes in right around 10,000 bucks, and that places you right in competition with something like this. So CB650R, what's the price on that one, Spite?
It was about $91.99, so probably when you're all said and done, about 9,500 bucks.
Yeah, because remember guys, tax, title, license, dock fees, all kinds of other stuff. It's pretty difficult to get a brand new motorcycle out the door for the exact MSRP price. You can find good deals and stuff like that, but typically it's pretty tough. Horsepower comparisons. This bike makes about 116 horsepower in R trim, but the S version makes about 110, whereas the CB650R makes, how much again?
About 100 when we've got the power commander and the exhaust on there. It's probably closer to about 94, 90 out the door.
Yeah, I think they quoted at like 95 horsepower, but Honda's always a little hush-hush about their horsepower ratings.
Everyone massages their horsepower figures a little bit.
Yeah. Weirdly enough, I think some manufacturers like downplay it. Like I think BMW and GSX-R 1000 from Suzuki are known for kind of downplaying their numbers a little bit because everyone's like, it only makes 200 horsepower, and then they ride it and they're like, this thing feels like an animal. So sometimes they do that as well. Standard features on these bikes both come with ABS. The brake systems on this bike, obviously you got the Brembo over here, but the S doesn't come with the Brembo. This one has a Nissan front caliper. Non-adjustable Showa suspension on the CB650R versus fully adjustable Showa suspension on the 765 over here, almost a 675. So that's going to tell you a bit of the story there, where obviously this motorcycle, the R version, is much more track-focused, track-capable than the CB650. But as you guys saw in my track review of the 650, you can have tons of fun with this bike on track. It actually works super well out of the box. I really, really liked it. We're definitely going to do an on-track review of this motorcycle here. Had to do it to him. Got to take this thing out on track and have some fun with it. I know you guys are going to hate me for that, but whatever. I'm going to go do it. What else can we say about these bikes, Spite?
I think there's a little bit to be said about reliability in both of these platforms. So everybody knows that a Honda's indestructible. You can, basically all you need to do is change the oil, make sure the valves are in check, and the bike just runs forever.
Yeah.
And you just push the button and it starts. It, you know, even on some of the Yamahas, it's like, go, 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 go. Okay, now we're going to turn on.
Yeah.
Whereas I've had multiple people on different Triumphs tell me about transmission issues. And all of the transmission issues were different. One person, their bike started falling out of gear. One of them was finding false neutrals. And one of them just like exploded inside the bike.
Wow.
So, you know, I'm assuming that as they get better and better and there's more riggers on their platform, they're going to improve. But there's nothing to improve on Honda reliability.
Yeah, that is for sure. The Honda bikes do just work really, really well out of the box. The Triumphs, as a former owner of 2 different 675s and now a race prep 675. So first generation 675s had crazy electrical problems. Second gen always had oil leaking problems. So hopefully this 765, they've sorted a lot of those issues out. I feel like they have, but again, this is a brand new bike, so it's kind of hard to talk about its reliability. I think the other big thing as well is technology and features, right? So this bike features a TFT display. It's got rider mode. It's got you know, ride-by-wire, all kinds of stuff. This bike's a little more, you know, I wouldn't say bargain, but just a little more simple, right? It's just got that simple LED, no rider modes, just a simple kind of, you know, dash.
I'd like to think of it less simple and more pure, if we're going to throw a little bit of jargon on it. There's when you're really just going on this bike, it's, you know, a simple cable actuated throttle. You know, the ABS helps, but still, when you're just riding it, it's you and your wrist and your feet just doing everything.
Yeah.
This bike, you can have a little bit more of an unsteady throttle hand, and the nannies can take care of it for you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you put it in B mode, rain mode, it'll be nice.
Exactly, exactly. If you're thinking about just going out and having a bare bones, well, I think that's the wrong way to say it, but a stripped down
Honda PR is now sending us emails being like, call our bike bare bones.
But yeah, if you're looking for just a simple riding experience that's you and the bike and not a lot else, I mean, and a lot of people do that. It's why Harleys do so good.
Yeah.
This is
you
a
know
great
exactly
bike
what you're
for
going to
it.
get.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas this, you know, the technology tends to make bikes feel a little cold to me.
Yeah, for me too. Yeah, I prefer more analog, regular motorcycles. But I will say, I think to your point, that's a really interesting point you brought up, where it's like the Honda is such a known quantity, right? Like inline 4, standard sport seating position, Honda, like you know exactly that type of bike. Whereas this definitely has more of an exotic flavor to it.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like this bike, and it's the reason why I'm obsessed with them, because when you ride them, they just have such a different kind of quality and flavor to them that it's really, really intoxicating. Really, really fun motorcycle. And I just thought of as well, you're a bit of a Honda fanboy and I'm a Triumph fanboy. I like that we're, you know, practicing social distancing in this way and also on our respective sides
this is
over
mine
here.
now.
Yeah. What else? Well, to let you guys know, we're about to take these bikes out on a ride and do a bit of a ride comparison back to back, see how they feel. Anything else you can think of, Spite?
I think we've touched on most of the salient points.
That's true. Let's get them out for a ride.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Spite, as a side note, it's very cute that we're wearing the same jacket.
I know, right?
We're matching, little matchy boys, you know? It's great.
White helmet, jacket. I'm just wearing ripped jeans, so.
Yeah. About to catch a lot of for that.
Yeah, I mean, well, we did say you don't need the riding jeans, right?
Yeah, you're living the truth there. All right, so you just mounted up on the Street Triple. You were riding the CB, and we've ridden the CB a lot. So sitting on it, what do you think? It sits higher, doesn't it?
It does sit quite a bit higher, actually. Probably, it feels almost like an inch to maybe 2 almost.
Oh, yeah.
Just from the seat. And it feels lighter, just between the legs. I'm not sure if it's just like the center of gravity's lower or because that's not a race machine.
Yeah.
Honda was just like, F it, we'll just use steel.
Right. For me personally, I don't feel like it's. I feel this is a little more dense, but that definitely feels a little more nimble. Yeah. More. But I think once you get it rolling, you'll see the difference.
The seating position feels pretty much exactly the same, though.
You think so? I think it's pretty different, actually. The pegs are quite a bit lower over here. You don't feel like those pegs are higher?
Maybe the peg feel, but just from like the waist up.
Yeah, still really
bars.
comfortable, really easy reach to the bars. Yeah. All right, let's get them started up. I love that exhaust on this bike.
Am I an idiot?
Clutch in, neutral, hold the button.
Does it have to be in neutral to start?
Yes.
Triumph, man.
Yeah, a couple bikes are like that for some reason. I don't know why. I think the Scrambler's like that. Yeah, the Desert Sled. All right, let's head out.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so back to back, I can already notice that the Street Triple is just so much more racy than the CB. This is just your classic kind of, sport bike for the street thing, but the Street Triple is just like, let's f***ing go,
It desperately needs tank grips. I just slid down and hit myself in the nuts with the tank on this hill.
Yep. Yeah, the
interesting.
CB
I
just gives
think
you that.
I think the lever throw for the transmission is a little bit shorter on the triple.
Really?
Yeah, it feels like just clicking up into second, it just went.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, this is point and shoot. It's so easy.
Yeah. It just darts right in, doesn't it?
Yep.
That's, I think, the big difference you notice on a bike like that versus the CB is, obviously the tires are more aggressive. The Street Triple's rocking those Rossi 3s, and this over here's got a pretty sport touring bias tire, so it's definitely not as pointy and V-shaped, but the chassis and the rake and everything on the Street Triple set up to just really tear it up.
Yeah, no, it feels like a sport bike, just minus a bunch of pain in the ass plastic.
Yep. And that, I think, comes down to the fact that, from the waist down, it's literally a Daytona. It's almost no difference.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're totally right. This is begging to have a quick shifter put in.
Right? Yeah. I'm amazed they didn't put one on the R, but they saved that for the RS, which is the most racy of the two, or the three, rather.
Well, you gotta have a little difference in your skews, right?
Yeah, wow, turn-in on this is so different than the Street Triple. So
yeah, again,
different.
you have to think a little bit about that. This, you just follow the road.
Yeah. For me, the real standout feature, like we were saying, the garage for the Street Triple is just that kind of more exotic triple-cylinder engine. It is just so unique and so, bespoke to that Triumph bike,
Yeah.
That intake sound, that character, it's really special.
It's a very visceral riding experience, whereas the Honda's a little, clinical.
I think the Honda as well, it's, since the seat height is lower, the pegs are lower, this feels like I could see myself just kind of cruising down the main street of my town and just, kind of bopping around town with it. The Street Triple is pretty aggressive.
Yes.
And I think even though the name is Street Triple, I really think that it's pretty aggressive for what it is. Okay, just crossed the yellow there, all right. The lack of torque is really apparent on the CB versus the Street Triple. The mid-range on the Triple is just so mighty,
It's got a lot of meat wherever you want it. You crack the throttle open and it's just ready to go.
Yeah, I think the mid-range on that bike is pretty much unparalleled for the class. It's so good.
One thing I am noticing about the just kind of riding experience on the Triple is the handlebars are very buzzy.
Really?
Yeah, compared to the Honda, which everyone's like, oh, 4 cylinders, buzz and vibrate. This is very buzzy.
Okay.
And maybe that's just me, but
I hadn't noticed that. Yeah, I find the Honda to be very unbuzzy, and then the Street Triple maybe a little bit more buzzy, but not too much. But it's interesting that you noticed that.
Yeah, I guess it's just because I ride Hondas every day of the week, but it's got a very high frequency buzz in the handlebars.
Gotcha.
I can feel my fingertips already tingle a little bit, but it's just got so much more
punch than the CB does.
Yeah, it's crazy how much more punch it has, because on paper you're like, oh, it only makes, 10 more horsepower or whatever in the S trim. And certainly at the higher revs, you don't notice as much of a difference, but when you're riding around town, how often are you really above 10,000 RPMs, Not that often.
Yeah.
And that's where the triple just really is so good, because in the mid-range where you use the power every day, boy, it pulls.
It's really, I don't think I've ridden a bike that has just kind of go juice everywhere. It's interesting.
Yeah, my favorite thing about that engine is if you look on a dyno, maybe we could put up a little photo here, is it almost looks like the most ideal dyno graph, because the torque is like relatively just like a straight line, and the horsepower is like a, Y equals X type of, gradient like that.
Yup.
So it's just this really exactly what you'd want out of an engine. It's predictable, the torque curve is flat, it's really nice. Whereas this is really, that peaky kind of 4-cylinder power band. You got to get it up in the revs, you got to have some fun with it and rev it out. And some people love that. It's a big reason why people love, using the R6 as a platform to race with and do stuff with. But I think for street duty, something like the triple cylinder engine is really where it's at. I've never seen anyone pull into there. That's crazy. I guess somebody has to live out here, right?
Imagine if this was your commute, man.
Oh, man.
But man, I miss a bike on Rosso 3s. I really like these tires. They feel
I think they work great.
Good. Yeah.
I know that in theory, the sport touring tire is all you need on the road, but man, to have that kind of flick in and that grip is rad.
Yeah, and I've had Rosso 3s on a couple of bikes now, and they're a great tire, and I get nice long life out of them.
Yeah, I think Rosso 3s, the Q3 works really well as well for streets. I think when you start getting to like the super courses and the Q4s, that's like way overkill for street stuff. And it's funny because I know that the RS for the Street Triple comes in super courses, which tells you what they want you to do with that bike. But yeah, for regular road use, a DOT race compound like the super course or the Q4 is really too much. One thing I will say about this is that classic 4-cylinder like pops and crackles and sounds. It's so fun to ride this thing and just kind of blip it through the gears and just see what it does,
Yup, having that full system on there has really given that bike quite a bit of life.
Yeah, before when it had the stock can on it, it was pretty quiet and lifeless. Yeah, this bike is great. I mean, even though the Street Triple is just such a like gorgeous, velvety, racy kind of bike, and I really, really like it, man, this is a great bike too. You really can't go wrong with this one.
Which is interesting that, we're having a comparison between bikes in kind of completely different categories.
Yes.
And yet doing the same thing with them.
Yeah.
That is considered maybe the upper end of a beginner bike, and this absolutely not. But they're still doing the exact same thing.
Yeah. That's a great talking point, actually, where let's talk about why that bike is totally inappropriate for beginner and why this one actually, if you really wanted to, you could make it work. Give me some of the reasons why you think that's the case.
Well, so first of all, the main reason this is not a beginner bike is just that right there. It's you are.
That's why you come up quick on me.
Yeah, if you're not paying attention and you accidentally give it just a little too much gas, it'll walk away from you really easily.
Yeah.
If we're talking about these bikes back to back, maybe price not necessarily, but this is an expensive motorcycle.
Yes.
And finally, it's just, I think that if I were to be a beginner on a bike like this, going and practicing in the parking lot, and I accidentally dropped this, I'd have to go home and drown my sorrows,
Yeah, I would feel terrible dropping that bike.
It's game over. This is a bike that I would consider a finisher almost. You've had a couple of beginner bikes. You've had your Ninja 400, you maybe have a 650, and then you get this for the street and you're done. Just ride this for the rest of its life.
Yes.
you need nothing more.
The Street Triple works so well in a one motorcycle garage / lifestyle kind of bike because it's a bike you can have to commute with. It's a bike that will happily do track days in stock trim completely fine. You could take that thing on a road trip. You could do everything with that bike, and it will happily do everything. And that's, I think, one of the biggest selling points for the Street Triple for me is like, if you can only have one bike, that's a pretty damn good one to have.
Yeah, you really could do a whole lot worse.
Yeah, it's very versatile.
And I guess a final thing that I would say about this bike is in a perhaps panicky situation to an untrained set of fingers, the front brake might surprise you.
Oh yeah, that's got a lot of stopping power.
Even though it's got ABS, that really only does so much.
Yeah.
You know, you're still going to be able to outride the brakes on this bike.
Totally.
And then, I guess, of course, just the black magic that the intake sound does to your brain.
Yes. So that's, I think, for me, the two main reasons why that's not a great beginner bike. So one is that mid-range torque. You know, if you are under 5,000 RPM, that thing pulls nice and hard, and it's great for an experienced rider, but for a beginner, it's really not a good option. And it's funny, every time we say that about the Street Triple, it seems like all the guys who bought a Street Triple as a first bike come out of the woodworks and they're like, I bought one and I'm fine, you know? But I question whenever I hear that, because it's like, okay, yes, you didn't die on your Street Triple. That doesn't mean you're a good rider. That doesn't mean that you learned and had fun with the bike. It might just mean you learned how to survive on your Street Triple, you know?
Yep.
Whereas if you'd bought a more appropriate bike, you would have had a lot more fun learning how to ride, and it wouldn't have felt as serious, you know? So that to me is a big reason. And then the second one is that, like you said, it's just expensive. You know, like it's just, why would you spend $11,000 on a first motorcycle when you know you're going to drop it, you know you're going to bin it, you know that you might do something silly with it. So just, yeah, it doesn't make sense. Oh, and the third reason as well is that it is that intoxicating intake sound, and it's just, it really eggs you on. Like that bike has this quality of really egging you on. Whereas the CB, it's kind of like, okay, if you want to go a little quicker, we can do that. That's cool. But, you know, let's maybe dial it back a little bit. Whereas the Street Triple was just like, throw everything you can at me. Let's do this.
Yeah. It's just, and it's fine to just do these turns kind of lazily. But it also, it feels like it's asking you why you're not just dragging your knee around every freaking corner.
Yeah, totally.
Wow, that mid-range punch, you can, it almost lifts the wheel off the ground mid-corner. That's wild.
It's pretty awesome. But yeah, the mid-range punch on that bike is just fantastic for a more experienced throttle hand. But yeah, as a beginner, that bike, if you're in second or third gear, coming out of a corner and you whack it too hard, that's going to be a bad time.
Yeah, you could do some damage to yourself pretty easily on this. This is a bike where you could definitely high side it if you're just a little too measured in your application of that throttle.
This inline 4 is so intoxicating though. You love to just rev it out, hear it sing. It's really great. It's a peach of a bike for sure.
Oh yeah.
I love hearing the pops and crackles on the D-cell. It's really nice.
Like the CB's every bit a finisher bike too, if that's what you want out of it, you know?
Yeah.
Like the VFR, to bring up my own little passion, it's only making about 100 horsepower, but that's all you need on the street, you know?
Totally. I thought the VFR made a little more than that though, no?
No, it's pushing about 100.
Okay.
With a tune it'll make more, but I'm not tuning that thing.
Yeah, so I think, here's the thing. If you are looking at a first bike and you're looking at Street Triple S versus CB650R, great comparison, really comparable motorcycles. One will definitely get you there as a beginner bike you can grow into. The other one, not a good beginner bike. If you are looking at CB650R versus Street Triple S or R as your kind of second bike, you want to grow into something, personally for me, I'd say go for the Street Triple. It's a more exotic bike. It has a little bit more punch. I think you're going to be more happy with it for the long run if you want to keep it for a long time. But that doesn't mean that the CB is a bad buy. It just means that, you know, the Street Triple is going to be the better long-term purchase in my opinion. What do you think?
Personally, based on anecdotal evidence from my own riding group, I would take the Honda just because of Triumph reliability.
Controversial, bro.
Because I like a bike that I just don't have to think about, you know?
Yeah.
If I'm like, okay, I need to change the oil, and I see a flake in a Triumph bit of oil, I'm like, I think it should go to the dealership and have a checkup.
Yeah.
But, you know, the Hondas will literally last forever if you do just the basic maintenance to keep them happy. You know, that CB right there could easily do 150,000 miles on that engine.
Probably, yeah.
And, you know, it's just, that's something that I really value as somebody who has, you know, a DRZ that needs everything every day.
The DRZ is like your rescue animal.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like this forlorn dog you picked up. You're like, somebody's got to love it. God damn it. All right.
Yup.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of having a bike that I go out in the garage and I hit the starter and it just wakes up. There's no like...
No drama,
you know,
no weirdness.
No drama, no like having to cycle a couple of times. It just goes, you know?
Yeah.
So from that sense, I think I would definitely take the Honda over the Triumph. However, there's something to be said about having that punch that this bike does, because it really will keep you happy if you're looking for something that potentially is a little bit more exhilarating.
Yeah,
because
that's a great way to put it. It's very exhilarating to ride.
Yeah, Hondas are not known necessarily for being the most thrilling bike out there.
Maybe that new Fireblade is, but something tells me I'm not going to be able to get my hands on that.
CBR 1000 RR RSP giveaway when?
Hey, if we keep doing big things like we're doing, hopefully soon, that'd be sick. I never take it on track. I only ride in the street, and I never take it above 2,000 RPM just to piss everyone off. They're like, what the f***? You got a track bike and you don't take it to the track. I'm like, you know what? That's life. Sorry, man.
I will say, though, this thing is freaking telepathic. Going around these line turns, you just don't have to do anything to it. It just goes.
Yeah. No, the flick in and the feel of it mid corner is exactly like my 675R. I love, as you guys know, I love that bike. The Street Triple is no difference. It's just that same feeling of just like telepathically darting into a corner. It's so great. And to get that in a package that you can still ride to work every day is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, this is not sporty enough that it's going to hurt you to ride.
Yeah.
And, you know, at 6'3", I fit comfortably on this bike, which is great. You know, I was sitting on other bikes earlier, and I just did not fit.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can fit the Street Triple. It's a pretty amenable and easygoing package. The seat height is a little high, and the pegs are a little high, but that comes with it being a proper sport bike. It's not trying to be anything else.
I do think it worth noting that I haven't left second gear.
You were in second gear the whole time?
Yeah, I've been in second gear the whole time and just, you know, having a ton of fun. I haven't needed to shift. I haven't needed to, it's ready to go.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I was between second and third a lot of those times. Like you know, just to kind of get my gears working a little bit.
Yeah, I'm cruising at 45, 48 miles an hour right now indicated, and in second gear, 6,000 RPM.
Yeah.
And then you just crack it open and it's ready to go. I guess that is the just beauty of the Triple, is there's just power everywhere.
Yeah. It's a really, really smooth engine to just have power all through the rev range like that. Alrighty. You ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1, go. Wow. That was way more neck and neck than I thought.
Yeah,
that was fourth gear for you?
Yep, and I was flat out full throttle.
Yeah, me too, fourth gear. They were neck and neck, wow.
That actually was really surprising.
I didn't expect that at all. You know what that might be, is just weight difference between you and me. That might be where all that difference was found.
Possibly, yeah. I wonder if
am
we did this...
GP spec, as we mentioned.
And I am certainly not. I'm Harley spec right now.
Harley spec, yeah. That was really surprising, honestly. Because I always that's crazy.
That really was impressive.
I
I was expecting this to just walk away. And
the CB was like, you know what, y'all been talking. Have to show you what's up.
Meanwhile, the bike doesn't know what gear it's in. Good to know.
It says neutral right there.
Yeah, but it was in neutral and it said second. I mean, just looking at them side by side right here, it's... Just look at the difference in the tails.
Yeah, look how that tail sweeps up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's that same Daytona subframe. Whereas this is literally for this motorcycle, this 650 platform that they put the fully fared and the naked version.
Yep.
Because I don't think they use this frame for anything else, right?
I think, well, I mean, it's the everything in the 650s. So, like,
yeah.
You know, the 650, the CBR 650R,
yeah,
I think uses this exact same setup.
Yeah, but what we're saying though is like this isn't like a race rep frame. You know,
no, absolutely
this is a very
not.
street focused frame that's on this bike. Yeah, because I think they only used those 600 frames back in like the 90s to do like the naked versions of their 600s back in the day. I don't think Honda makes a naked 600R right now. They do make the naked 1000, like the CB1000R, but I don't think that's the same frame as the Fireblade, especially not the new one.
No, it's not. It's basically this but bigger. It's this exact same kind of setup.
Yeah. I mean, they're both great bikes in their own right, you know.
Yeah. I think a slightly more appropriate throwdown would be the CB650R and the XSR 700, just because they're both that neo-retro vibe, and I think they're both kind of the top end of the giveaway spectrum. But again, in that sense, the Yamaha's so much cheaper, so it really makes it's hard to put the Honda in a place, you know.
Yeah. It is interesting because they're both doing the neo-retro thing, but this one, I mean, if we were to do that comparison, which we definitely should if we have time before we give this one away, man, it'll be so apparent how one is just like a cruiser and the other's like a sport bike, you know?
Yep.
But to varying degrees a sport bike, right? Because we saw with the Street Triple where it's like, that's like a hardcore sport bike, and this is like a sport bike, you know? It'll do sporty things, but it's nothing like that. So final thoughts, Spite, what do you think?
Well, I think... Again, me personally, I would have to have the Honda, but if I could just take the engine out of that and put it in there and have it engineered by Honda so that it runs forever, then we're talking like a dream bike, because it's just...
Sounds like you want an FZ09 then.
It's so nice to have the reliability of a Japanese bike, but also have that kind of exotic feel to it, because then everybody looks and is like, oh, what bike is that? You know?
Yeah.
They don't do that with Hondas, and I've ridden my fair share of them, and no one really cares.
Yeah.
You're just on a Honda.
It is pretty milquetoast, yeah.
You know, Triumphs are pretty show-stopping, regardless of whether it's the Bonnevilles, the Tiger, you know, the triples. They're so nice.
I heard, I think it was on the Revzilla podcast, there's a great quote about the Bonneville, where it's like, if you own a Bonneville, it doesn't matter if, you know, it's a man or a woman, like, someone's going to want to come to talk to you about that bike, you know, it's going to get attention from everybody, whereas, like, some bikes get a lot of attention from girls, other bikes get a lot of attention from dudes, you know, but the Bonneville is one of those bikes that just gets tons of attention from everybody, and I think this bike is the same in a different way. Like, if you know about bikes, when you see a Street Triple, you're like, sick, that's awesome. If you don't know about it, you're like, I don't know what the hell that thing is, so not really going to think about it, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm trying to think who should get each of these bikes. What's like the who's like the person for each of these bikes?
The CB is the right person for this is someone who's a little older, a little bit more cash, looking to get into riding.
Yeah.
The Triumph is somebody who is an experienced rider out of their, you know, let's go super fast on the street phase.
Yeah.
And willing to accept the responsibility of a motorcycle that is built for the track on the street.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I think the natural progression to Street Triple is someone who started on SV650 I see that a lot. Guys get a couple years old SV650, have fun with it, learn how to ride, and they're like, okay, I want my big bike, and then Street Triple is just there waiting for you, and it's just every bit that upgrade over the SV. Whereas the CB650, like you said, could be that first bike if someone has a little bit more cash, but could also be a great second bike if you love the look of it, you love that Honda. Maybe you started on like a Rebel 300 and you're like, hey, I want like a real Honda sport bike, but you want it to be street oriented. This is your bike for sure. Yeah. I think that wraps it up, though. I think we said quite a bit about each of them.
Yeah. Anything more, we're just going to be saying the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, guys, thanks so much for watching. Again, the CB is spoken for. It's going out to Kyle in Pennsylvania, which is pretty sick. But the Street Triple is up for grabs. So if you want to learn how to win that one, head on down below to yammynoob.co and get signed up. Access to our Discord server, and every dollar you spend gets you 10 entries to win. It's a good way to spend a day.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. All right, guys, we'll catch you in the next one. See you later.